Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Random Vlogging. This is the show where I talk about just random topics that I find interesting or I feel I have something to contribute to the conversation. If you haven't guessed by the title of this video, I want to talk about Diablo Immortal to kind of catch people up in case you missed BlizzCon and the avalanche of just horribleness that was the aftermath of the Diablo Immortal announcement. Very brief summary. BlizzCon is Blizzard, Activision Blizzard. It's their convention. It's host to a bunch of things. There's a bunch of tournaments for their games that happen at BlizzCon. There's a huge cosplay presence there where they actually have a cosplay contest. There's a bunch of different panels and things like that. They bring in voice actors and from their various properties and things like that. And one of the big things that happens at BlizzCon is they have this big press conference where they announce new games, new expansions, any really big announcements generally go on at BlizzCon. And this year that definitely happened. They announced quite a few different things. But the thing that's been getting the most traction has been this announcement of Diablo Immortal. For those of you that don't know, Diablo is an action RPG series. It actually created an entire genre of games. There were a lot of for a while in the late 90s and early 2000s, there were tons of games that were just what are called Diablo clones. And they still exist now. They're just not quite as popular. Seeing as people started getting burnt out, and it's remarkably difficult to improve upon or even get as good as what Blizzard has put out there with the 3 core Diablo games. But the franchise itself is like 20 years old, very popular, and so they announced a new game in the series called Diablo Immortal, and they announced that it was going to be a mobile game, and that's when the world went crazy. You had people at the announcement because at the announcement they had a Q&A panel about it, and the Qs did not go well. There's 2 clips that have been circulating around the internet that I don't have for you, but you can find them really easy. The first one is this guy comes up to the mic and goes, "Hey, is this just a mobile game, or will you be able to play it on PC too?" Which is an important thing because, first of all, Blizzard doesn't have any mobile games whatsoever. So their entire audience currently either play on consoles or play on PCs, depending on what game they're playing. So it was a valid question, and the response was very much a PR response, which was he mentioned we're focusing on mobile. He mentions going to be on both Android and iOS, which didn't answer the question at all. It was PR speak. They were being diverted away from the message that they wanted to put out there, which was to focus on mobile and focus on the ability to play it anywhere and all that stuff. Those are the talking points, and these questions kept shifting away from that because the player base didn't care. So they answered, yeah, it's going to be focused on mobile, on both Android and iOS, but we currently have no plans to release it on PC. And the audience booed. Not a really surprising thing to happen. Again, as I mentioned, their entire audience are PC and console gamers. They don't have a mobile audience. This game is designed to get them one, but they don't have a mobile audience right now, aside from Hearthstone, which can be played on PC. So yeah, they really don't have a mobile audience. So it wasn't surprising. What did surprise me, and this just is, people that don't understand how to deal with a hostile crowd, which was their response to the booing was, "Don't you guys have phones?" And somebody else went, "Yeah, and you can play it on a tablet too," which is just patronizing and insulting, saying that basically implying that these people's anger was not justified and talking down to them. That's a really dumb PR move. Just in general, you never talk down to your audience in a live setting, especially if it's a hostile crowd, unless you're kind of just willing to accept that, okay, this is unsalvageable, so I'm going to tank this and get off stage. That's not something you do at a product announcement. That's something that a stand-up comic would do, or a public speaker might do, just so they could get off stage. If they tank it, then they can get off stage faster. No, it was just a dumb move. The second clip that's circulating around is this guy that comes up to the mic and goes, "Is this just an out-of-season April Fool's prank?" And the audience applauds, and the guys on stage they laugh a little bit, obviously nervous laughter, and that's where the clip cuts. So I want to talk about this, not so much from the fan perspective. I am a fan of Diablo. I'm more of a fan of the lore than I am the games themselves. I've played the original Diablo, I think, once or twice. I wasn't super fond of it because I played it, a couple years ago after playing Diablo 3, and going backwards in a franchise is pretty jarring. Without the nostalgia to, kind of make it better. So I wasn't a huge fan of Diablo 2. Is a lot of fun, but they don't have a version I can play on my computer at a proper resolution. I have to play it at a pretty low resolution on my computer. I own it. I've played it. I've never beat it. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that because of my mental state, I generally can't have just one thing going on. I have to have 2 or 3 different things to keep my mind occupied, or my anxiety starts to act up. So having to kind of only focus on this single game that doesn't have a ton audibly to keep my attention. Visually, there's a lot of stuff there, and mechanically, I'm doing something, but there's nothing audible. There's very limited voice acting in it, and the majority of the audio is background music and then explosions, which is not enough to keep me invested, and that's when my anxiety starts to mess with me, because it's a long story. And then Diablo 3, I really enjoyed, but again, I like the story more than, I'm married to the gameplay or anything. So while yes, I'm a fan, I want to talk about this in terms of a business move, because the things that you're seeing right now is you have fans that are up in arms because they're insulted by the game itself, because every single Diablo game has been genre defining. The first one created a genre. The second one defined it so much that any game remotely similar to it that came out for years was called a Diablo 2 clone. To the point where Path of Exile, which is a game you can play now, is still referred to as a Diablo 2 clone. And then Diablo 3 had a really rough start. But when Reaper of Souls came out, it's a super solid game. It's tons of fun. There's tons of replayability in it. It's great. And for, and so the fans are all up in arms of, we have these 3 great games, and now you're giving us a mobile game, which are known to be plagued with a bunch of issues. Like, they generally tend to be dumbed down versions. Most of the ones that make money are going to be microtransaction focused, and they're not happy about it because, they've had 3 amazing games, and now it's, something completely different that doesn't really seem to fit with the direction they were going in. And then you have the defenders of Blizzard, and specifically games journalists, who are basically just saying that everyone that's upset about this are little babies that are entitled and are crying because they're not getting what they want, and they're overreacting, and they're claiming ownership and blah blah blah. And so you have, like so many other conflicts that have happened recently, it's basically just 2 groups attacking each other for stupid reasons. Games journalists should not be defending a games publisher. That's not their job. Journalists in general should not be defending or attacking anyone. The journalist's job is to report news, and to be a check against tyranny in general, whether that's tyrannical business practices that are anti-consumer, or tyranny in the government, or in anything like that. That's why we have freedom of the press in the U.S. is they're supposed to be a check and a balance against bad things happening. Journalists should be able to investigate and report news. They're not supposed to be attacking large groups of people or defending anyone. That's not the role of journalists. On the other side, fans are not just attacking the game or the publisher, which I think is somewhat justified. They're attacking the people involved. They're attacking specific people, which is not justified. And that's just, kind of, it's an escalation from, basically that little quip that they had with, don't you have phones? That's one of the things that will instigate, that will change things from we don't like Blizzard to we don't like you, is when you respond with things like that. So that's kind of what they are. Again, I want to talk about the business impacts of this, the marketing impacts, and why it was such a massive mistake on Activision Blizzard's part to announce this at BlizzCon. So when you look at the mobile market itself, video games are $100 billion industry. I think it's like $130 billion this year. That's bigger than the entertainment industry and movies and films and that. Like video games make more money than movies and television and all that. It's a big industry. Activision Blizzard is one of the titans in that industry. They make crap tons of money. World of Warcraft being their biggest cash cow, but Overwatch makes some tons of money. Heroes of the Storm makes them tons of money. Hearthstone makes them tons of money. So they make a lot of money. They're a very big business. So from a business standpoint, I actually saw Boogie 298 made a video about this and actually showed that mobile gaming actually makes more than both console and PC gaming combined in total revenue, with mobile gaming making somewhere in the neighborhood of like 70 million and console and PC making about 35 million or billion. I can't remember now. Anyway, mobile, yeah, it's got to be billion, can't be million. I mean, that's a really, really big deal. And again, the only presence Blizzard has in the mobile market is Hearthstone. You can play on your phone. And I believe it started as a phone game and then transitioned to computers because, again, that's where their core audience is. And that's where it has been for most of the lifetime of the company. They actually started with games like Lost Vikings, which was I can't remember where it was. I believe it was a PC game, and that's where they've been was PCs and then consoles. So when you look at this from a business standpoint, expanding to the mobile market makes sense. That is an untapped market for them, or a underutilized market that they really haven't done. They partnered with one of the biggest mobile gaming companies in China, where the mobile gaming market is massive. It is bigger than PCs. It is bigger. Like it's in China, the mobile gaming market is gaming. Yes, they have PC and console games. They pale in comparison. Everybody plays mobile games there. It's a massive market there. So they partnered with a company that's one of the biggest there. All of those are smart business decisions. Where they started making mistakes was announcing this at BlizzCon, number one. You have your Western fan base, which in the Western market, mobile games are not nearly as well thought of. The idea of pay-to-win games and things like that are super popular in China and Korea and Asia in general. Pay-to-win games are massively popular. In the Western market, U.S., Europe, and that, pay-to-win is an extremely negative thing. It's considered a predatory business practice. It's considered unethical. So announcing, and it's associated with mobile games in the West. The most popular mobile games on the market are all microtransaction based. And a lot of them are pay to win. The more money you put into it, the easier the game is, the better you can do at it. And I know this because I play a somewhat pay to win game, Power Rangers Legacy Wars. To get the newest Rangers that are released, you have to buy them. You can earn at an incredibly slow rate. You can earn crystals and their premium currency. You can earn it without paying. But in order to be competitive in the top tiers, which is where I find myself regularly, you got to pay. And I'm starting now that I've stopped paying. I've started finding that I'm hitting a definite ceiling. Because you really have to in order to be able to continue competing. So I understand it. I still enjoy the game. I still play it every day. But I understand the idea of mobile games being associated with pay to win, and the practices are predatory. The practices are I don't want to say they're completely unethical. I say they are an ethical challenge for any company if they're going to employ these practices. They they have business ethics. They have to take that into consideration when using these practices. I'm not saying that all of these things are inherently evil. I'm saying they can be. So the mistake they made was you don't announce a mobile game to an audience that is primarily composed of PC and console gamers. It's a really stupid move from a business perspective. You want your first reveal of a new product. You want to put that in front of the people that are going to want it the most first, because their word of mouth is what's going to get you most of your advertising at first. Yes, you're going to run more ads and things like that, and you're going to have an entire marketing campaign, but your first reveal needs to be in the place where it's going to be most effective, because that initial hype is the most you are ever going to have for the product in general. There are a few examples like No Man's Sky, where the initial hype just kept building and building and building and building and got massive, bigger and bigger after the initial announcement. But to be honest, it was the initial announcement that sparked that. And if it had been done poorly, No Man's Sky probably would not have turned into the debacle that it was. So that was mistake number one. They announced a mobile game in a room full of people that were not part of the target market. And I don't know if it was them not understanding that despite the fact that these people own phones, they don't play games on them. They don't consider them gaming devices. And so somebody went, well, no, this makes perfect sense. Everybody has a phone, so we'll get all of our fans in there. Fans are going to be the ones that give you the most word of mouth. And we'll announce this thing, and they all have phones, so they're part of our target market. No, they aren't. To be 100% blunt, they aren't. And so that was 100% a marketing mistake. Whomever was in charge of marketing for this product screwed up majorly. What they should have done, what would have been significantly more effective, instead of announcing it at BlizzCon, do the first reveal on Twitter or do the first announcement on Facebook. These are both sites that, while you can and a lot of people do use them on computers, they are some of the most popular phone apps in the world. So at that point, the people that are going to see it, you're going to have a much better time getting people that think of their phone as more than just a way to make calls or check Twitter or something like that. Simply because they're already using their phone. When they look at it, they're going to instantly be able to understand what it's going to look like on their phone because they're seeing it on their phone. And a lot of people that use Twitter from their phone rather than their computer are going to be more phone-based. That's why you see, especially on Facebook. Facebook is a very mobile-oriented platform. That's why you see a lot of ads for mobile games on Facebook, because it's an incredibly effective way to reach mobile gamers. Mobile gamers use Facebook a lot. So that probably should have been done. They shouldn't have announced it at BlizzCon. They should have announced it somewhere else. They could have mentioned something like the most effective thing they could have done would have been do your whole presentation, do all your trailers and everything like that. At the very end, mention, oh, by the way, check out Facebook, our Facebook page on, November, 12th. Just pick a day, whatever you want. November 12th at, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And watch the hype grow and grow and grow. And then when it launched, your initial announcement is launched on a mobile-friendly platform, you don't have the massive outcry that you had from BlizzCon. Would there still be an outcry? Yes. Again, mobile games are associated with really unethical business practices in the West. So you were going to get people that were upset about it no matter what. Doing it at BlizzCon was a massive, stupid mistake. Your target market doesn't attend, for that game, does not attend BlizzCon. And I understand the whole point of it was they had demos running at BlizzCon so people could play it. No. Have the demos at BlizzCon, that's fine. Announce it before BlizzCon. Don't announce it at BlizzCon. That was a massively stupid thing to do. The second big mistake they made was when people got upset about it, you don't antagonize your customer base. You don't talk down to your customer base. All that does is fan the flames. When they said, you guys all have phones, right? That was a slap in the face. That was the dumbest thing they possibly could have done in that situation. The best thing they could have done, okay, the marketing guys got it super, super wrong. The audience is upset. We have to salvage this somehow. You don't do that by talking down to your audience. You don't do that by treating them like they're stupid. What you do is when that guy comes up to the phone, the microphone, and says, "Is there a chance for PC port?" You say, "Currently, we're focusing on mobile. We want this to be a mobile game. There aren't any plans for it to be on PC, but we value your input. If this is important to you, let us know. We appreciate, we understand that you guys are PC gamers. We have some stuff in store for you as well. It's just, it just wasn't ready to reveal yet." Which isn't even a new statement. They put out a statement a week before Blizzard that said exactly that. If the guy on stage, I can't remember his name, but he's credited for really saving Diablo 3, because when he got involved with it, they got rid of the real world auction house and all the stuff that made it really bad at launch. And it's a really awesome game now. If he had simply said, "Hey, this one right now we're just focused on mobile," changing the UI and everything and changing the control scheme so that it would work on a PC is a massive undertaking that we're just not focusing on. This is a new market that we're trying to get into. We think it's a really solid product. We think a lot of people are going to love it, but in order for them to love it, we need to put all of this team's heart and soul into it. However, please, don't worry. We haven't forgotten about you PC gamers. We haven't forgotten about you console gamers. We're just not ready to announce the cool stuff we have for you yet. That is a perfectly acceptable answer. That's what they said in their press release earlier. But no, his response was, "You guys have phones, don't you?" "Yeah, everybody's got phones." No, you're talking down to your audience. And it was built out of frustration. It obviously was not what they intended to say. They went into this thinking people would be thrilled because the higher ups told them that. and they got their target market so wrong in this instance that they were completely blown away when the audience didn't just love it. Everything else they'd shown, everybody loved. But when it came to this, everybody was upset. And that they just couldn't comprehend that. And then they kept getting attacked because they opened up a Q&A session and that was going to happen because you just pissed off your audience. And then they responded with a really stupid quip that's going to be played over and over and over again by everybody that is against this game, and they shot themselves in the foot. I personally think the cinematic looked really cool, but Blizzard is really good at cinematics. That's what they do. I've seen a little of the gameplay. The gameplay doesn't look horrible. Again, I play mobile games for me with all my mental stuff. It's hard for me to concentrate for long periods of time. So mobile games are really perfect for me. I actually will probably try this game as long as I'm going out on a limb here. I'm going to say it's probably going to be free to play. It's probably going to have a lot of microtransactions in it because that's where you make money in the mobile market. And knowing Blizzard, it's probably going to be decent. Again, Blizzard isn't technically making this game. They've outsourced development to this Chinese studio. So if you want to know how it's going to play, check out their other games, which have already been accused of being Diablo ripoffs. So it's not like these guys don't know how to make a Diablo game. Yeah, it's probably going to be okay. I don't think it's going to be an amazing game. I have never I've never played a mobile game where I sat back after I was done and gone, wow, that was amazing. The closest I've gotten, again, is Legacy Wars, Power Rangers Legacy Wars. And that's simply because it's fun. It's fun. I found a community of people that also play it. And I enjoy the community. I know some of the top players. I've conversed with them. They're a lot of them are really, really nice. That's why I like it. But I don't think for a minute that it's better than if they were to make a Power Rangers fighting game on PC or consoles. Like I would drop Legacy Wars in a minute if it meant that I could play it on a PC with a controller and more complicated mechanics than yellow beats red beats blue beats yellow. Like that's Legacy Wars in a nutshell, and then you can dash every so often. It's a very simple game. So I don't think it's going to be a horrible game. I do think Blizzard screwed up massively with their announcement, with how they announced it, with where they announced it, with the fact that they did not get their target market whatsoever. And then their response to criticism has been hostile, to put it bluntly. And you can't do that. As horrible as it is, again, my background is in management, and I have a degree in business management and marketing. I have been called horrible things to my face. I have had people yell at me. I've had customers scream at me. I've had customers throw things at me. I've had associates scream and yell and say horrendous things to me. And part of being in business is understanding that people are going to overreact. that's how it works. I used to tell my cashiers if a customer ever starts yelling at you or starts getting aggressive with you in any way, shape, or form, don't ask them, don't talk to them other than to say, let me get my manager. Don't ask them, do you want me to get my manager? Just say, let me get my manager. We had headsets so that they could always just reach me, and just go, hey Jody, can you come to register blah blah to speak with a customer? And I would tell them, we don't pay you enough to get abused like that. To be blunt, they don't pay me enough to get abused by that, but that is literally part of my job. I am paid to get yelled at. That's part of being a manager. It's part of running a business, and being a representative of a business is getting yelled at. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's acceptable to yell at retail workers or anyone in the service industry in general, whether that's, the people at BlizzCon. Technically they are providing a service to their customers, which are the people that buy their games, so they are technically part of the service industry. But at anyone representing a company, you're going to get yelled at. You have to understand that's going to happen, and you have to be able to rise above it. You can't talk down to your customer base. All that does is piss them off and make you lose customers. And in this day and age, the ramifications are massive, because it's not just one customer who will go and tell their friends about their bad experience, or they might leave a bad review that most people will never see. In the age of YouTube and Twitch, millions, hundreds of millions of people are going to see you talking down to your customer base, and it's going to screw you over incredibly. So it's simply not acceptable. Yeah, that's my view from a business perspective. Blizzard 100% announced Diablo Immortal at the wrong venue. They should not have announced it at BlizzCon. They should have done it if they were going to have demos for it at BlizzCon. They should have announced it before on Twitter or Facebook or both, because they're much more mobile centric. And they would have been able to deal with the backlash much better. And then after they made the decision and they started seeing their customers getting upset, their response should not have been, well, you guys have phones, don't you? No, it should be, hey, we understand this is new, this is different, this isn't what you were expecting. That's okay. We're not saying we don't care about you guys anymore. We're trying something new that we think could be awesome. And if you don't want to come with us, that's fine. We haven't forgot about you. We have stuff for you. They said that before BlizzCon. We have stuff for you. It's just not ready yet. And this is for us to announce. So that's what they should have done. Feel free, if you have strong opinions on this, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Like I said, I have recently learned a phrase that I love. It's called Hanlon's razor. In philosophy or rhetoric, a razor is an expression of general truth or principle. Occam's razor is one of the most common ones, and it's used in Occam's razors is basically the idea of, if you have two different choices, two different paths you can go down to fix a problem, you should choose whichever path uses the least number of assumptions. Whenever you're trying to predict the future, whenever you're trying to make plans, you're going to operate on a couple different assumptions. And when you're given multiple options, each option is going to be based on an assumption. And Occam's razor states basically the best course of action is the one that relies on the least number of assumptions. Hanlon's razor is different, and I love it. It is this. Never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. The basics of this, I think more people need to understand and know this phrase. Too many people, when they see something bad happen, the first thing they think is the people that did it are evil. They're trying to destroy this thing I love, and they need to die. No. It's much more likely they're just stupid. That's it. And that I 100% believe that's what this is. Blizzard is a massive company. They think very highly of themselves because they don't release unsuccessful games. They really don't. Look at, I mean, like I open the Blizzard launcher all the time. Every single game on there makes crap tons of money. So they don't release bad games. It's extremely rare, and when they do, they fix them. So they were arrogant. They made a stupid mistake, thinking that they don't make mistakes. And then they insulted their player base. All of those were stupid. They were not made with malice. They were not. It's not that they're this evil, disgusting super corporation that just wants to hurt and maim and kill and no, they were stupid. Everything they're doing, expanding the mobile market, makes sense from a business standpoint. Putting Diablo, turning Diablo into a mobile game, it makes sense to a point. They couldn't do World of Warcraft won't work on mobile. It's too complex for that. Hearthstone is basically the mobile version of World of Warcraft. That's what they did. Their other games simply wouldn't work on mobile. Heroes of the Storm wouldn't work. Overwatch wouldn't work. They're too complex. They're too graphics heavy. They require too many controls that you can't really replicate on a screen. However, there are Diablo clones on mobile. They already exist. So Diablo transitioning to mobile, it's not a crazy idea. And them moving to a market, a massive market that they haven't really tapped, makes perfect business sense. They just screwed up because they underestimated their audience. They didn't identify their target market correctly, and then they talked down to their audience. All of those are stupid moves, not evil moves. They're just being stupid. And eventually, somebody at their company is going to get their head out of their ass and is going to fix this. I don't know how they're going to fix it. It may be an apology. It may be that they immediately start developing a PC port of this. I don't know. But Blizzard is a really, really successful company. And I sincerely doubt this is enough to topple an empire like that. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Like I said, if you've got thoughts on this, leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, that's all for me today. I'll see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.